everybody, how's it going? As THG says, what's going on, everybody? So, the rumors of Luis Castillo. Oh, we got a downvote already. Must be a Reds fan. So the rumors of Luis Castillo are starting to kind of heat up a little bit. Last night we got a tweet from Hector Gomez that Clint Frazier and Miguel Andujar would be key pieces in a possible trade for Reds Luis Castillo via Ricardo Gibbon. He's a beat writer for the Yankees from Caracas, Venezuela. So I don't know this guy, but I'm going to go ahead and assume he's correct because it agrees with my hopes and my dreams that the Yankees can go ahead and get Luis Castillo. So before we get into all that, I wanted to go into who Luis Castillo really is. So as much as I love this background and this cool little display I have here, I want to switch over for a second to my Safari screen so you can see the baseball savant numbers. I wonder if I can position my face here a little differently. Look at Luis Castillo's baseball savant numbers. Exit velocity. He's in the 87th percentile. I'm having trouble seeing this. Let me see if I can make my screen bigger. There we go. Expected ERA, 85th percentile. Barrel percentage against, 81st percentile. Whiff percentage, 83rd percentile. 96th percentile in fastball velocity. Strikeout percentage, 83rd percentile. Expected batting average, 77th percentile. The only areas where he's kind of below average are fastball spin, which is 24th percentile, and hard hit percentage, which is the 49th percentile. But, I mean, Matt Blake, who's the Yankees pitching coach, is known for increasing spin rate. That's kind of his deal. So this would be a guy that, while he's already pretty nasty, could get even nastier. Let's take a look at his stats from last year. He made 12 starts, 70 innings, 89 strikeouts, 1.23 whip. So walks and hits per innings pitched is what whip means. And generally, I like to see a whip that's somewhere between, well, really anywhere under 1.2. So 1.23 is a little high for my tastes, but shortened season, there's no arguing against his stuff. Again, look, expected batting average against, 77th percentile. So, hitting, guys, he's not easy to hit. He is not easy to hit. Why would they get rid of him? Let's take a look at the Reds roster. We're going to scroll down to the pitching here. Okay, so we got Trevor Bauer. We know he's gone. He's not officially gone yet, but I'm covering up the, there we go. Trevor Bauer is gone. He's going to sign with someone else. My guess is probably either the Blue Jays, the Mets, or maybe the Angels. Remember, the Angels were heavily in on Garrett Cole before he signed with the Yankees. And then Luis Castillo's their number 2 guy. Sonny Gray, Yankees legend Sonny Gray, is their number 3 guy. And there's been talk that he might get traded. So the Reds must be thinking that if we're unloading assets to rebuild, these small market teams, they have a shorter window to win than these large market teams that can compete year after year. So with the thought that, maybe we can unload some of our pitching assets while they're at their peak. Maybe Sonny Gray's not at his peak, but Luis Castillo is definitely at his peak value right now. That might help them rebuild. Now, we saw that the 2 parts rumored from Hector Gomez were Clint Frazier, who would be a left fielder. So let's look who they have in left field right now. Shogo Akiyama. He had no home runs in 183 plate appearances. I think that Clint Frazier would do better than that. And let's be honest, I love Clint Frazier. I think Clint Frazier, and look at this advertisement I'm getting. Whoa. Clint Frazier would look good in that Cincinnati Red uniform, with the red. He'll grow out his red locks, and I'm sure he'll have some other red shoes or something like that. But Frazier would be a good fit there. It's a hitter's ballpark. So, he would replace Shogo Akiyama. They've also got Castellanos, who did not have a great year last year. He did have 14 home runs. Actually, he did have a pretty good year, other than the on base percentage and the batting average. I mean, he had 14 home runs and 34 RBIs. Those are pretty good numbers for a shortened season. He played in all 60 games. That's, what's that, about a 30, 40 home run season over the course of a full 162. So, Frazier's probably not going to play right field. And then they were looking at Miguel Andujar. So they have Eugenio Suarez at third base, and he's 28 years old. Why does it do that? Let me unselect this. Suarez had 15 home runs and 38 RBIs. Again, not a great batting average guy. Not that matters that much anymore. 202 batting average, 312 on base percentage. So you're probably not going to replace him with Miguel Andujar, but maybe Andujar could play a little backup first base, play a little outfield. They've got Votto, who's going to be 37 years old. This was the first time in his career that he really, really struggled. 226 batting average. He still had 11 home runs and 22 RBIs. Still had an 800 OPS. But Votto's not the same guy. So let's look at what Frazier and Andujar did. So Frazier was a Gold Glove contender, finalist, surprise. He had his best year, really. 267, 8 home runs, 26 RBIs, a 905 OPS. That would be the best on their team. He'd be the best hitter on their team. And he's, just 25 years old. He's going to be 26 this year. And then they would get Miguel Andujar, who I know his numbers don't look great this year. 242 batting average, just a 277 on base, 632 OPS. But let's go back a couple years. Let's go back a couple years to Miguel Andujar. 2 years ago, 297, 27 homers, 92 RBIs. Really, you hate to give up that kind of contact hitter, but he can't play defense on the Yankees. So, I mean, second in the Rookie of the Year voting. That's not a bad combination. Again, my head's in the way. I'm sorry. So, yeah, I mean, look. These would both be decent pieces. I'm not going to lie. But let me pull back up my live screen. But I want to get everybody else's thoughts. What are your thoughts on what the Yankees should do? Paul says, did we give up Clint? No, not yet. The trade is not done at this point yet. It's probably not going to happen for at least a little while. Let's see. Tam Hill says, Andujar can excel on a different team. I don't disagree with you. I feel like one of the problems that Andujar had last year is that he couldn't get regular at-bats. He was up and down between the alternate site and the major leagues. And he's like a rhythm hitter. You know what I mean? He's got that whip action on his swing. He's a guy who, he's a contact guy. And when you're not getting regular at-bats, it can be tough to really, square up the ball very often. So he's a guy that, you're right, would probably be better off with another team. Let's see. All right, we got a lot of questions here. Man. Rosamo says, what is that ad? Yeah, that was weird. Let's see. It is not official, Paul. There's no deal in place yet. This is just something that's being rumored. We don't even know really if it's the real deal. This guy, Hector Gomez, I don't know what his credibility is. He didn't have that blue check, but Jim Bowden and there was one other guy. Was it John Heyman maybe? Have both speculated that Castillo and the Yankees would be a nice fit, and that Castillo is a guy that the Reds were exploring trades for. It makes sense. Deal him while he's got some real value. That way you can get some players back and rebuild that Reds team and maybe scoot up the period in which you can contend again. I feel bad for Reds fans. I mean, last year you had a really good team. You make the playoffs. Trevor Bauer dominates against the Braves, and I mean, you lose, and now your window is basically closing because Bauer is moving on. And that's what sucks about being a small market team like the Reds. So let's see. What else we got? Lori C says, trade Chapman and let Britton close. So Chapman is another guy. He's got that humongous salary. I've never been a big Aroldis Chapman fan. Look, I get it. He throws 100 miles an hour. But these days, a lot of guys throw 100 miles an hour. I would much rather have a control pitcher with some movement as my closer. In fact, I've always liked the idea of a sinker baller like Zach Britton as your closer because he doesn't get beat with the home run very much. Chapman tends to give up home runs when he's not pitching well in the playoffs. Last couple years, big home runs. He's also very wild. On any given day, he might airmail 5 balls to the backstop. So I like Chapman in terms of, just a lefty out of the bullpen. But in the closer role, I've just never felt comfortable with him as a closer role. But maybe as a closer, but maybe I'm just a little spoiled because I grew up watching Mariano Rivera and John Wetland. Adrian Acevedo says Clint and Duhar, Vizcaino, and Abreu for Castillo. I mean, maybe. That might get it done. I wish there was a way for me. There is a way. I got to figure out how to leave the comments on the screen for a little bit longer. If you'll stick with me for just a second, I'm going to adjust my preferences here. See if it allows me to do that. All right, we're going to leave those up for twice as long, 15 seconds. All right. S, good username, says Clint or Davey would have to go back in the deal. That brings me to another point. Let's look at Davey Garcia. A lot of people are saying don't trade Davey Garcia for Luis Castillo. I'm going to pull up Davey Garcia's Baseball Savant page real quick, and we're going to share that on Safari. I don't live stream very often, and so I'm not as comfortable. I like to do my pre-made videos because I can talk for like an hour, take a moment to pause in between my thoughts, re-record something 4 or 5 times, and then splice it all together, and it comes out usually pretty smooth. But when I'm talking, I say a lot of stupid mistakes and things like that. So bear with me if this isn't as good as some of my other videos. All right, so Davey Garcia, his Baseball Savant numbers show a guy who's, even though he had decent success last year, his metrics aren't that great. The average exit velocity against, the barrel percentage, the whiff percentage, all of these things are below average. Whereas compared to what you saw from Castillo was above average in pretty much everything. So, you're banking that Garcia right now, if you keep him, is going to get better, right? One thing that Garcia's got going for him is his walk percentage. He's got very good control, which is usually the last thing that happens with pitchers. And his control is actually better than Luis Castillo. But again, his fastball spin, his fastball velocity, not that great. Hard hit percentage, not that great. He looks like just from the metrics, a below average pitcher. But I like his stuff. I think he's got some late movement. He had a lot of poise. He was just 21 years old this year. He's a little guy, 5'9", 163 pounds. So, I mean, he's going to need to adjust. But Garcia is a guy that I would not be opposed to trading if it meant picking up Luis Castillo. There's only a couple of guys on this team that I would not trade for Luis Castillo. I wouldn't trade Jason Dominguez under any circumstances for any player. I wouldn't even trade Jason Dominguez for Mike Trout because I think Jason Dominguez is going to be Mike Trout in a few years, and he makes a lot less money. Jason Dominguez, I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade Gleyber Torres under any circumstances. Gleyber Torres had a down year, but there's no question the type of player that he can become. Before last year, everybody was saying that Gleyber Torres could be like a A-Rod type of player. He was projected to have like 42, 43, 45 home runs. There's an article somewhere. Hang on, let me pull this up. Gleyber Torres projections 2020. It was like a Fangraphs thing. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to pull this up real quick. You guys will like this. All right, let me scooch my stupid face out of the way. So this is what Fangraphs projected for Gleyber Torres. And I think you can throw out 2020 because the pandemic screwed up everybody. They project him to be an A-Rod type of player. 44 home runs per season the next 2 years, and then 47 the two after that, and that's as far as they projected. They're saying that he's basically A-Rod without the steroids and at a younger age. So, hey, look, I don't want to trade Gleyber Torres under any circumstances. Other Yankees I probably wouldn't trade. I think the Yankees should hold on to Gio Urshela under all circumstances because he's cheap. He's extremely cheap, and he plays great defense, which is something that the Yankees lack in many areas right now. And he can hit. He was clutch this year. He had that big grand slam against the Indians, so I wouldn't move him under any circumstances. All right, let's get back to the questions. Danny C says, is this a video or live? This is live. Live stream. Live. Franchise says Clint should be untouchable. I disagree. I mean, what is special about Clint Frazier? He's 26 years old. He's never played a full major league season. Yeah, he's got good tools. He's got good bat speed. He's got good power. He's a charismatic guy. He's improved a lot on defense, but untouchable? Untouchable? You wouldn't trade him for an ace pitcher? No, you got to make that deal. If they want Clint Frazier, you give Clint Frazier. Let's see. Franchise says, I'd trade Hicks before I trade Clint. You know, that's something to bring up. Aaron Hicks does have some trade value. Aaron Hicks is signed for, I think, 5 more years. It looks like I'm getting some latency on my end on the reel here, the video reel. So if there is, apologies. I'm trying to monitor the comments, so let me know if there's an issue. But Aaron Hicks does have some value. He's a switch hitter, which is one of the reasons I think the Yankees are hesitant to trade him, frankly, because he hits from the left side. How many Yankees hit from the left side? There's our boy Clint. I'm just going to stay on this screen for a while. But he signed for a relatively cheap contract. What teams like to do, and this is kind of taking advantage of players in a way, right before Aaron Hicks and his wife had a child, their first child, the Yankees signed him to a long-term contract because that was leverage, basically saying, hey, look, if you want to secure your family's future for a while, sign this team-friendly contract. You're guaranteed $70 million. Now that kid is set for life. That kid's set for life. Even if Aaron Hicks got injured and never played another game, in baseball, contracts are guaranteed. It's not like football where if a guy has a bad season, you can just cut him. So Aaron Hicks is guaranteed that money. He's got some value, and it's not a lot of money. When he has a good season, he's extremely valuable at that price. Let's see. CFMC says, Kyle Hendricks is better than Luis Castillo. Maybe. His stuff certainly isn't as nasty. I like Castillo's ability to keep the ball in the ballpark. Kyle Hendricks is good. Somebody made this comparison the other day in my comments. They said basically that Kyle Hendricks is to pitching what DJ LeMahieu is to hitting. And I think that's a really good comparison because they're really solid type of players. They're, just consistent, not flashy, not going to overwhelm you with, the whiz bang, but they're really good. And Hendricks, I think, somebody look up Hendricks' salary. I think he makes like $8 or $9 million at least. So I don't see that happening. Prince Yeezy says, should Yankee look to trade Voit at some point in the next year or two? I don't think so. Voit is extremely valuable. He's got a lot of power. He doesn't make much money. He can use the whole field at Yankee Stadium, and he's so strong. The bat looks like a twig in his hand. He's so strong that he doesn't even need to get all of it, and he can put it over that right field wall. The fact that he uses the whole field, the fact that he is so patient at the plate and makes the pitcher work, that is an undervalued skill. And Luke Voit is one of the best at it in baseball. He makes hard contact. So, wow. Somebody says they hope the whole Yankees team dies in a plane crash. So let's go ahead and ban them, THG. Let's go ahead and ban them. THG is the mod. So if you run afoul of him, he will go ahead and hit the shadow ban. Yeah, I've seen a big uptick in both views and subscribers over the last few days, but I've also seen a huge uptick in hate mail because people are pissed that the Yankees are even trying to trade for Luis Castillo. They're pissed that the Yankees signed Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber, I mean, he's a hit or miss guy. And I think that's why they're looking at Castillo, because Corey Kluber very may well come out and win 20 games and have an outstanding year. But he also might pitch 3 games and be done. That's a real possibility. Griminator X says Mets fans are salty. Why are Mets fans why are they salty? You guys just got Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco, not to mention James McCann, one of the better catchers in baseball. You've already got Pete Alonso. You've got Jeff McNeil. I mean, you guys are going to be a really, really good team. You shouldn't be so salty. Matt M says, I'm not a fan of the Kluber signing, 35 and has barely pitched the past 2 seasons. Matt, you've got a point. It's a perfectly valid concern. I've seen a few people mention this, that basically over the past 2 years, he's pitched, I think, 3 or 4 games, maybe, or 8 games, some ridiculously low number. And even before that, you know, at the end of the season against the Yankees in 2017, he was having some arm issues. 2018, he had a few arm issues. Once a guy starts to have arm issues, it's tough to come back from that. And that's why he didn't get a $20 million contract, which he would be worth if he was fully healthy. They basically paid for 50% of, you know, what they think he could be worth. But everything that I've heard from the scouts who were there, that I've read, is that Corey Kluber looked really good. That he was throwing basically 90 miles an hour, which is typical of where he is this time of year. That his spin rate and his breaking ball were really good. But more importantly, he looked strong, he looked healthy, and he's been working out with Eric Cressey, the Yankees trainer, so the Yankees know, they understand his health. They understand his health. Lori C says, how will they address the bullpen? I'm going to tackle this after I have a sip of water. Brought to you by Pure Aqua. No, honestly, I think the Yankees are trying to address the bullpen from within. I think they're going to count more on Jonathan Loaisiga. Johnny Lasagna. It's almost like a spasmic reaction when I say Jonathan Loaisiga. I just, Johnny Lasagna. I think Loaisiga is going to play a bigger role. I think if Herman doesn't make the rotation, which he probably will, but if you get Castillo, he probably won't. But Herman could be a really valuable bullpen piece. He throws in the mid-90s. He's got a great breaking ball. Remember, in the bullpen, you don't need 3 or 4 pitches. If you have 2 good pitches, which Domingo Herman has, he would be an outstanding relief pitcher. A lot of times when guys who are, you know, decent as starters, as Domingo Herman is, and a lot of people out there love Domingo Herman, and somebody even said, don't slander Domingo Herman. Never mind the fact that he beats his girlfriend. I'm not going to go to there. Hopefully he's learned his lesson on that one. But Domingo Herman, he gives up a lot of home runs. And he wore down a little bit down the stretch in his first season. I'm not saying he can't be a great pitcher. I'm just saying I'm still a little skeptical. He got hit kind of hard and was kind of lucky. So his numbers, you know, he was 18-4, but his ERA was over 4. You know, he wasn't as amazing as people think he was. But we see guys get better when they go from the rotation to the bullpen. Think about 2009. Phil Hughes. Phil Hughes was supposed to be the Yankees' next great ace starter. He was compared to Roger Clemens. He was compared to all these, you know, great Yankee starters in history. And then he really struggled out of the gate. I think he was 0-4 with an ERA over 8 in 2008. 2009, he starts and doesn't get off to a great start. He gets moved to the bullpen, and what does he do? His velocity goes up because he doesn't have to stretch it out over the full 6-7 innings. His strikeout rate goes up because he can utilize 2 pitches instead of trying to mix in 3 or 4 pitches and hang in balls that end up in the bleachers like he did so much. He was great out of the bullpen. That's what happens. Guys move to the bullpen. Mariano Rivera came up as a starter too. He was not great as a starter. And then he got moved to the bullpen and, of course, became one of the, you know, not even one of, the greatest relief pitcher of all time. So, Junior B says, Clint going to lose his SHIT if he gets traded, LOL. Like, lose it. I don't think you're wrong, but I think that if he does get traded, it'll be a really good opportunity for Clint. He won't win a World Series with the Reds anytime soon, but he'll get a chance to have a couple of years to earn his value and get regular playing time in a hitter-friendly park to establish a fan base to build his reputation a little bit. And Estevan LeBron, dude, Phil Hughes was absolutely compared to Clemens. I can pull up an article right now. I'm going to prove you wrong right now. Phil Hughes, Roger Clemens comparison. Boom. Found it in 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Here we go. I just saw it in the... let's see here. I'm going to find it on the page. 19-year-old Hughes was compared to Roger Clemens after throwing to teammate Jason Giambi. Don't tell me what's what. Don't tell me what's what, son. Acting like I don't read every word written about the Yankees ever. Ban that guy for being a douche. Do you think the Yankees will end up with Luis Castillo? Jake Cake, 28. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think they do. I think that Brian Cashman recognizes how good the Dodgers are and that the White Sox are getting better and that the Yankees need to overwhelm baseball to get back into the World Series. And I think that if the Reds are open to moving him, the Yankees have the pieces to get it done. French Yeezy says, I'm not a Yankee fan, but this stream is entertaining. Appreciate it, man. I don't consider myself an entertainer. Most of my videos, I'm not going to lie, are boring as shit. When I when I do videos, I try and stick to facts and player projections and do things that are meaningful in a baseball sense. You know, I don't try and compare myself to anyone else. I think comparison is the thief of joy. So I just try and do me and have fun. During the season, when I'm doing my season or series previews, I like to start off, or even game previews, I like to start off every episode with a lighthearted joke. And that's honestly the toughest part. Better, more than any of the graphics you see or any of the background I built, the toughest part is writing a joke that's fresh and unique and like 5 seconds long multiple times per week. I have so much respect for comedians. I did stand-up back in 2005, 2006, you know, a few times. I did it. I went out like 4 or 5 times. And it first couple went good. Next couple didn't do so good. And then I haven't been brave enough to get back on since. So anyway. Kevin Parmalee says, Aaron Judge is the face of New York. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I just wish that he could stay a bit healthier this year. Aaron Judge, to me, has more physical tools than anybody in baseball. I mean, there's no question about that. He's just so much bigger. He hits the ball so much harder. Something to watch for with Aaron Judge this year is how much time they give him off. Because something I've noticed over the past couple of years is that he'll play a ton of games in a row. He'll play, 19, 20 games in a row, it seems, and then he'll get a day off. I think, honestly, if you manage Aaron Judge a little bit differently, where you give him maybe, every third or fourth day, put him at DH, and then put Stanton in right field, right? Stanton should be able to play a little bit of right field. I mean, honestly, right field at Yankee Stadium is not a big territory. So maybe you pick out a day, or you just give Stanton a day off completely, and you move Judge to the DH spot, and you give somebody else a chance out in right field. Keep Judge healthy. You'll lose him more often out of the lineup in terms of, he won't play, if he stays in this pattern, he'll play maybe 130, 140 games. But that's better than missing 2 months. And then you have him healthy going into the season. Cole, Castillo, and a healthy Kluber is an awesome 1-2-3 to finally reach the World Series. Also, Carlos, don't sleep on Luis Severino. Luis Severino coming back from Tommy John, not going to be the same, but he should be pretty good. He should be pretty solid. We're getting a look right now. Let's watch through the highlights here. I built this reel. It's like 20 minutes long, and it just loops over and over again. And so I forget that other people don't get to watch the highlights as much as I do, because I see it every day when I'm working. Davey Garcia, I love his smile. Aaron Boone with the home run. Gio Urshela, opposite field bomb. Gio Urshela he's been such a find for this team. Such a find. What are we chances we get Castillo? 1 in 10. My opinion means absolutely nothing on this. This means I do not have any inside information. I'm not going to pretend that I do. I'm not going to say I got some source telling me the Yankees are going to. I think it's about 50-50. I think if they can make it work, they'll make it work. And if not, not. The Yankees, that's why they signed Corey Kluber. They have some backup in case they can't. So, do you think, somebody says, do you think we could get Nick Castellanos? I don't think we need Nick Castellanos. I don't think we need another right-handed hitting outfielder with power. I would rather have a left-handed bat. If you deal Clint Frazier, I like the idea of Michael Brantley. Is anybody on board with Michael Brantley? Lori C says, hey, has anyone seen Vlady Jr. lost 50 pounds? I'm going to pull up a picture. Vladimir Guerrero weight loss. I have not seen this yet. All right, we're going to share this here. Oh yeah, he's looking. I mean, this is November, so I don't know what he looks like now. But yeah, he looked pretty fit. Let's see if there's any fresher stuff. Let's check out the images. I mean, yeah, you can see side by side right here. Oh, a skinny Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely he's definitely trimmed up. He's got good bat speed, man. If he could ever just stay in shape, he would be able to be. He'd have some longevity like his dad. All right, let's get on with the AMA and Q&A and all that stuff, and then we'll move it on. Let's see. Angel Serrano says Brantley, yes, a great contact hitter. Let's see. Michael Brantley will put them over to luxury tax. Yes, so that's a great point. Matan, I think that's how you say it, Maton. Brantley is going to be expensive. So if the Yankees do move Clint Frazier and get Luis Castillo, who's going to make probably a couple $1 million at least, they would have to move somebody else to make up some money. Who could they move? I mean, that could be where you see Aaron Hicks get dealt. The Yankees picked up Greg Allen. I don't see him as a starting center fielder, but, maybe Estevan Florial, a lefty. Maybe the Yankees like him and think he could play center. I mean, it would be a stretch. Honestly, without being in the room and without knowing what the Yankees think of some of their younger guys, maybe there's somebody out there like a Gio Urshela who can play the outfield that the Yankees have their eye on that we just don't know about. And so you might see them make a deal where it's like, okay, they traded Aaron Hicks for some nobody prospect, but then that nobody prospect ends up being your starting center fielder this year and having a really good year. I mean, that's something that could happen. Fisher Sykes with Steets says, I want to keep Ford if possible. Great bench bat. I like Ford's swing. I like how strong he is. A strong, big, hairy monster, as Brian Cashman likes to call them. In Yankee Stadium as a left-hander, extremely deadly. He did not hit his best this year. I think a lot of guys didn't. I mean, look at what you want to talk about weight loss. Go look at Mike Ford. And I'm sure there's stuff out there. I'm not going to research it right now, but Mike Ford coming into 2020 was in tremendous shape. He looked really fit, really ripped. And then after the pandemic, it looked like he spent the whole time eating nachos, and I don't blame him because that's what I did. But I'm finally starting to work out again, and I'm sure Mike Ford is. So, we'll see. Yeah, somebody's talking politics. No politics in here. Let's keep it to baseball. I think we've all had enough of politics, right? I mean, politics is like, look, I have my political views and I'm comfortable with them. But let's try and keep it to baseball because I think people need sports as an escape from the things that affect our everyday lives, like politics, like the bickering back and forth. Let's just agree that this is a spot for baseball, for Yankees, for life. If you guys want to talk some philosophy, go ahead and hit me up with some philosophy questions. Baseball is my main interest, or my main hobby, but my main interest is really solving the mysteries of the universe. The hard problem of consciousness, aliens, all that stuff. That's what I'm in on. Uh, Sean says Luis Castillo under contract for the next 3 seasons. I see this is probably a Reds fan. So Sean, I want to get your opinion. Who do you want? And actually, any Reds fans in attendance right now? Anybody who's in attendance, and it looks like we have a couple hundred people watching, 431. I say it's pretty damn good. If any Reds fans are here, tell me who you would want from the Yankees as your starting package, and let's go through it. I would love to hear that. We'll just go with the words of Cybercat. Who should they trade for Castillo? My pitch yesterday when I had Patrick on the podcast, which if you haven't watched it, Patrick Hennessy of Unhinged Talk and that was an unedited podcast. We just went all the way through. We didn't edit it at all. Patrick and I were throwing out some thoughts. My thought was that you offer them one of 3 young pitchers. You could give them either Garcia, Schmidt, or Herman just to replace Castillo and give them some value back in the rotation. And then I would include Andujar because he can slot in as a first baseman, third baseman type of utility player, get better on defense. There's a lot of pinch hitting opportunities in the National League. You have to use the double switch a lot more. So there's a lot more at bats for Miguel Andujar in the National League than there are on an American League team that already has the DH spot spoken for, as the Yankees do with Giancarlo Stanton. And then I would throw in a couple of sweeteners. I'd give them some bonus pool money if they wanted it. Maybe an Anthony Siegler, maybe an Albert Abreu, a mid-level prospect that Juan Diaz says the Reds want Gleyber Torres. Oh, I don't know about that. I just said like 10 minutes ago that I wouldn't trade Gleyber Torres under any circumstances, but Gleyber Torres for a second ace. That's the question. That's a true baseball trade. That reminds me of when the Yankees traded Jesus Montero for Michael Pineda. The Yankees needed a catcher. They had Montero as a top catching prospect, but they also needed a pitcher. And the Mariners needed a catcher. So they went ahead and swapped. And turns out neither one of them worked out. Although I do think the Yankees got more value out of Michael Pineda than the Mariners got out of Jesus Montero. NYY News says, is that you, Felix? Are you the dude who does that? It's like an audio broadcast with like the flickering screen or whatever. If you do, that's cool. That's a good freaking show. Hang on, let me pull that back up. Andujar, Florial, Nick Nelson, and $4 million for Castillo. Yeah, that would never get done. They want more than that. That's just not enough value. $4 million. I mean, maybe if you made it $40 million, they would take that package. But Nick Nelson is also a guy Lori C mentioned before I got interrupted. I'm gonna throw her back up there. Hell no. Before I got interrupted to prove that guy wrong about Roger Clemens, we were talking bullpen. Nick Nelson is a guy who I think could be a guy who steps up and is a big part in that bullpen, along with Jonathan Loaizaga, along with Ricky Leday, what a great swing, along with possibly Domingo Herman. Braccioli, is that like a Italian dish? Braccioli. Gleyber needs to move back to second base. I don't disagree with you, but I think they're going to leave him at short. I think they're going to leave him at short and just tell him to lose weight. He's 23 years old. He's played shortstop his whole life. He was a good defensive shortstop in the minor leagues. They moved him over to second base because they already had Didi. But that brings me to another point. Didi is still out there. If you trade Gleyber Torres, who makes $4 million, for Castillo, do you bring Didi Gregorius back? That maybe gets you through a couple of years. Excuse me. Sorry, I just had a couple of bagels and some orange juice, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting to be belching as much as I am, like right into the microphone. I hope you guys can't hear it. Alfonso Soriano. That's this guy. By the way, if anybody wants a tour of my media room at some point, I've got a ton of these things I'd like to show off at some point. I collect. A lot of people leave them in the box, but personally, I like to see how the light reflects off of the uniforms and things like that. Let me hold this up. See how the ripples in the uniform reflect shadows or whatever. To me, it makes for a great, ambiance. I've got Jeter up here. I I've got like 20 of these things. This is Jeter in an away uniform. I've got Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse. If anybody's ever looking to get me a gift, these Yankees McFarlane's figures are my favorite thing in the world in terms of decoration. I mean, not my favorite thing in the world. My wife's probably my favorite thing, followed by my dogs and my cat. We have a cat named Gizmo who's nearing the end. He's going to die in the next couple days, or she's going to die in the next couple days. She's really sick. Lori C says, yeah, a tour of your man cave. I actually have a tour, but it's kind of older. It's kind of older. If you guys want to watch it, I can show you. I think I have it in here. No, I don't. Shoot. I will do a tour. I will do a tour of the man cave video here. So if the Reds trade Castillo, they'll want to package him with Castellanos or Moustakas for salary relief, keep in mind. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Yankees wouldn't do it, because the Yankees can, if they acquired somebody like a Castellanos, you could move him. He's tradable because there are teams that would take the DH. You know, maybe you could move Castellanos to, you know, someplace like an Anaheim, you know, maybe even a Minnesota. You know, guys, teams that need power, that like power. Let's see. So, hang on. I'm trying to click it, but it keeps moving. Christian Vasquez says, do you think Gary will finally go off? I'm a huge Gary fan. I'm ready for him to prove us wrong. Gary Sanchez. What do you say about Gary Sanchez? When he came up in 2016, I was about as big a Gary Sanchez fan as there's ever been. He is biomechanically perfect. His swing is incredible. Incredible. But he's too slow to react to pitches. I said last year that Gary Sanchez needs to wear glasses or get his eyes checked, because to me, it's pitch recognition, right? Let me explain to you, and let me try and find a ball here. Okay, this is a baseball, okay? This is a bat. It's actually a marker. We're going to call it a bat. So when you're hitting the way Gary Sanchez hits, he wants to hit out front to pull the ball, which means he wants to get around the ball and hit it out this way, right? Which means he has to start a little earlier, right? And when you do that, you sacrifice pitch recognition. So you're early on the slider and you miss it. And if you wait expecting a slider, then you're susceptible to the high fastball, right? If you try and wait a little bit longer than you're used to, than you're mechanically adjusted to, you become susceptible to swinging through the high fastball. He had both of those problems last year. I don't know how you correct it. I have seen some footage of him in winter ball. He's hit some home runs in winter ball. I've seen him go the other way with home runs, and I've seen him hit a couple of base hits the other way, but it's winter ball. These are guys who are going to be working at CarMax in 6 months. They're not going to be staring him down in the playoffs. So Gary Sanchez, while I like him, he's getting older, and as a catcher, I just don't see him getting a lot better. He might have a great year. He might be able to put it together for one great year, and if he does, the Yankees should capitalize on it and trade him for as much as they can get for him. I think they've got some other young catchers coming up, Anthony Siegler, Austin Wells. Both of these guys, have potential. They both have, they can swing from the left side of the plate. Siegler's actually a switch hitting catcher. So, and Manny Quintana has a point. He says lots of players had down seasons. So I'm going to agree with you there. That's why they're giving Gary Sanchez a chance next season. But Gary Sanchez has had 2 out of 3 down seasons. If he has another down season this year, that's 3 out of 4. And at that point, I think it's time to cut bait. Next Gen Breaks says Jason Dominguez. I actually talked about him a lot earlier in the podcast. I'm higher on him than I have on any prospect. Sorry. And by the way, Jason is spelled with 2 S's. He's named after Jason Giambi, but they spelled it differently. Jason Dominguez is a guy who I think could be basically the Yankees version of Mike Trout, like a switch-hitting Barry Bonds almost. That's what you hear about this guy. He's a switch hitter that hits the ball 115 miles an hour as a 17-year-old. He'll be 18, I think, February, a couple of weeks. I feel like it's February. It might be March or April, but it's definitely in the springtime area. So I felt like it was like February 20th or something like that is his birthday. I don't know. Bing Fang, Reds fan here, says, welcome. Bing Fang, tell me, who do you want the Yankees to trade for Luis Castillo? Let's see. Yankee Life. That's clever. Life with the 3. Yankees are going to start the season with him and see where he's at by the trade deadline. Sanchez will be gone. I don't know if he'll definitely be gone. If he has a good year, I think they'll keep him. But I do think that he's on a short lease because I think that Kyle Higashioka is legitimate. And he's 30 years old, so he's not over the hill or anything like that. He's not that experienced, but he's got a little bit of power. And we saw he's a wall behind the plate. He's a good catcher. Carlos Diaz says, I hope Dominguez is not juiced. You and me both, Brady, because he has gotten huge. I don't know if you guys have seen him recently. And for those of you not familiar with Jason Dominguez, I've got a quick, 2-minute video on Jason Dominguez. I'm just going to show you 10 seconds of it so you can see how big this guy got.
He is nicknamed the Martian because his skill set seems not to be of this earth. His name is Jason Dominguez, and he is a baseball prodigy.
I mean, this guy got freaking huge. You saw the first swing there in that video. He was 15, 16 years old, really skinny. Now he's 17, and he looks like the Hulk. He looks like, he barely fits into his shirt. And yeah, I don't know. I hope not, man. I heard he's just eating those quality plantanos down there. All right, everybody, thanks for joining this live stream. I am going to go take my dogs for a walk. Keep an eye on MLB Network. I feel like this Castillo trade might actually happen. I don't think it's all hype. I think it's an actual thing that could happen. Thanks to everybody who joined. It is my pleasure. I am of service to you. It has been an honor. I'll see you next time.